Welcome to the Midweek message. We're taking lessons from the book of Ecclesiastes, and I'm reading from the contemporary English version of the Bible. We're reading Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verses 9 through 11. Solomon said in verse 9, "Everything that happens has happened before. There's nothing new under the sun." Someone might say, "Here is something new," but it happened before, long before we were born. No one who lived in the past is remembered anymore, and everyone yet to be born will be forgotten too. Now, in the book of Ecclesiastes, Solomon is frustrated with life, and he's frustrated by the continual cycle of life and how that nothing really seems to change. Now, in a certain sense, it does as society progresses, as years go by. However, the basic needs of people don't change. Basic frustrations don't change. Planning is not always effective, and our life tends to be very repetitious, and that becomes frustrating to people. I recently read part of a sermon by a man who said it's not that people regret their faith, but they are disappointed by it, because sometimes the way we look at things don't really work out the way that we thought they would, and we may not take into account the fact that all these things are under God's control, but there is such an unevenness to life. And so Solomon says in these verses, verse 9, everything that happened has happened before. Nothing is new, nothing under the sun. A continual cycle of life. Sun goes down, sun comes up. Get up, go to work, come back, go to bed. And that is wearing on people. Life becomes monotonous. And so looking at the verses individually, verse 9, Solomon said, everything that happens has happened before. Nothing is new, nothing under the sun. And then in verse 10, someone might say, here is something new, but it happened before, long before we were born. Even new discoveries happened before in some cases. Now, of course, there are scientific advancements that were not known before, but the basic things about people, those things have always happened before. The young have to learn the lessons of life just as their forebears did, because in part they won't listen and they have to experience it for themselves. But what comes around goes around, and the repetitious cycle of life. And young people, when they come into some of the real wisdom of life, they view it as something that they're the first ones to discover it. But Solomon said nothing is new under the sun. And verse 11, no one who lived in the past is remembered anymore, and everyone yet to be born will be forgotten too. The hard truth is that this is not our world. We're just living in it. And when you and I are gone, the things that we have owned will go to someone else. And it won't be long before our contributions, even in this life, are a thing of the past, out of sight, out of mind. They are forgotten, and we are forgotten. And so Solomon was frustrated. He said, there is nothing new. Everything has already happened in the past, and people who are alive today, despite their accomplishments, will be forgotten, and those who have not been born will not long endure either. The truth is, in life, you and I may think that we are irreplaceable, but we are not.